Hi everyone. So this is going to be a mixed video from me today. I'm going to talk about firstly presenting our case and what we are presenting, and that's going to involve a sort of call for evidence. I'm also going to talk about a new initiative that I'm starting in terms of presenting my case and our case. I will also be sharing some of my experiences of mind control in the hope that the experiences will help you on your journey. I'm also going to mention a video by the International Tribunal of Natural Justice that was passed around recently, which I think is really important. I'm also going to mention the tragic news relating to an artist called Seven. Her name is Charles Seven. You may have heard of her case through the hashtag Sevengate or hashtag No More Abuse or No More Abuse UK. She's recently had a very close member of her family assassinated. And finally, I'm going to just mention about the BBC contact, and I can tell you now the fact that I haven't heard anything back from them as yet, but I'll be following it up soon. So the first issue is about presentation. I have been going through several websites and channels, and what I'm noticing is that a lot of TIs who have been making material for many years have put out so much material over the years that now it's quite difficult for somebody who doesn't know anything about their case to get a clear view of what's actually happened to that TI. What I was thinking about doing for one person was to actually go through all the videos that they have made and cut out the really informative parts or the really key parts and then stick them all together and make one video out of them. Because what's happened is all the information has now become very spaced out. And while that's understandable, it's really important in terms of presentation that somebody who hasn't got any idea of what's going on can get that information really quickly. So that is an idea for people to think about if they wanted to go back through all the videos they've made and pick out the core elements and just make one very concise and clear informative video about their case. And if, for example, you don't have video editing software, but you have been able to make videos, you could make a note of the times in each video where there is information that you would like to include in this one explanatory video. And then, for example, somebody else could make a video out of it for you. I've got editing software, so you could send them to me, for example, by WeTransfer or something, and if you had marked out the times in each video where the important parts are spoken, then I wouldn't have to trawl through each and every video myself. You know, I'm not trying to say that I'm this great person who just devotes themselves to other people, because clearly I'm also struggling, but it was just an idea that I had. It's really important that somebody else who isn't familiar with your case can easily pick up what's gone on. And another really important thing is to make sure that you have links that work. What I have been asking quite a few people who have come up to me and said that they are TIs, I've been saying, well, do you have a website? Do you have a YouTube channel? You've definitely got to have something online where other people can see your case. And somebody was saying, well, look, I'm so tortured that I can barely function. I only have a couple of minutes every day to be able to even do anything. And I was saying, well, look, even if you can write on Facebook, a Facebook posts can serve as a record of your case. So, also sharing your posts, because that information shouldn't really stay in one place. I also mentioned that you can download your Facebook data as well. So, for example, if you did make your post on Facebook, you could download it and print it out, for example, at some point, if that was possible. But as I say, it's got to be in a concise format. And if you're posting about other things, for example, as well, it's less easy for somebody to go through your posts and get that sense of what's happened to you. So, for example, you either need one video explaining everything, giving a summary, an overview of everything, or you need a website with a homepage that explains everything. And then if you have a homepage explaining everything, then you can put links to, for example, other points, further information. But the homepage should at least give the reader a very clear picture, a very clear and quick picture of your case. It's giving people that summary that allows them to get a lot of information in a short period of time. There are so many cases, so much information, there is just not the time in the day. Yeah, and as I say, I also wanted to remind people again to always put your contact details in your video description. Try to put your contact details clearly for other TIs to find. I definitely think that we still need to improve our connections between TIs, to improve the TI information sharing network. I think it has been working quite well. I mean, I have been seeing evidence of one person posting something and then a few hours later another TI posts the same thing. But, you know, it's always something that we can improve. And I think the issue is having a sufficient number of TIs on a sufficient number of social networks so that even if we're not all on the same network, the information will eventually be passed around to the entire community. You see, because the way the perps work is that they have lots of foot soldiers on the ground and they are all working individually, but there is a higher level of oversight, a higher level of management and coordination, and that's how they're able to make a lot of people act in the ways they want them to at the same time. And we don't have that coordination. We are individuals, foot soldiers in a sense, but we don't have that oversight because we don't really have proper channels of communication. On the contrary, when we try to communicate, our communication is sabotaged. I thought that the protest was quite a good time to actually look for genuine TIs. And again, I'd definitely like to ask, if possible, if I could be passed the contact information of all the TIs that did attend the protest, so I can get in contact with all those genuine people. No doubt most of them, or if not all of them, were genuine, and I definitely want to be in touch with them. The problem at the moment is I just don't know who they are. And leading on from that point, I made a post on Facebook recently calling for evidence. And I'm not sure if anybody's seen that, but I will mention it in this video as well. Basically, if you take a look at my playlists on my YouTube channel, you will see that I'm building up evidence of the wider problem. And I have noticed that other TIs are doing the same as well now. And that's particularly important if you have a lot of videos on your channel. You know, classifying the information, making it easier for somebody else to receive your information. You know, and when things are categorized and classified and put in their right place, that is in fact a patchwork of evidence. The thing is, I think that there are a lot of really competent TIs at the moment who have compiled a lot of really good information. In fact, it's not just on my playlist. I've also put it on other sections of my YouTube channel as well. For example, my discussion. I've been posting people's websites on there as well. So I'm linking to their evidence as well. But what I'm basically saying is I want more. I want as much as possible, you know, to collect as much evidence as I can. To be honest, I think that when individual TIs try to work on their own, we are so much more vulnerable to the defence of, oh, you're making it up, oh, you're delusional. It's when we combine our evidence that it becomes rock solid. It becomes impossible to deny. And that's what I'm trying to do through the evidence collection process. So if that's links, articles, documents, websites, videos, I want it basically, and I want it added to my channel, so please send it to me. I mean, I'll be trawling through all the targeted individual groups to pick up the information that's already been posted, but I'm just basically putting a call out there. If there is something in your mind you think, oh my goodness, this is such important information, it'll be so important to add to anybody's case, please do send it on to me. So that is just something to think about, you know, in terms of our communication and the ease of our communication, because it really is central to our mutual efforts in liberation. You know, how many TIs we are in touch with, how many TIs have been verified by the community as a whole. Another thing is that as I've been trying to develop my playlists, I've noticed that there is not that much comprehensive information about the military technology. Yes, there are loads and loads of videos, articles, documents, etc. But I wasn't able to find many documentaries, for example, that put all that information together. This is what I was talking about in terms of putting things together so things are clear and presentable for another person. Yes, there is lots of information on the technology, but there are not many comprehensive documentaries covering the whole lot in one go.
I mean, maybe there is, and I just haven't come across it, but that's why I would like to find it and add it to my evidence.
So I know that there are some documentary makers out there. I'm also thinking that I might have to get around to doing something like that as well at some point. A really hard-hitting video is what's going to be able to debunk all the deniers. You know, you can't sort of say to somebody, look, I've got 5 weeks worth of videos that you can watch. This is what's been happening when people have been caught by the mental health as well, you see. I mean, I've heard stories where people have said to the mental health, look, I've got documents, I've got evidence, look at this, look at that. But what's been happening is, because there is so much disparate information, the psychologists just haven't been bothered to look at the information. What's happening is a lot of these documentaries that are discussing these things add in a lot of unnecessary information. For example, a very long introduction, and then there'll be an explanation of what gang stalking is, you know, to sort of cater to the people who don't know anything about it. And yeah, all that is important, but when you're just trying to find out about one topic in particular the military technology, too much information is actually counterproductive. So yeah, in terms of my legal case, or the legal case that I'm going to try and pursue, I'm in a position at the moment where I'm effectively being pushed off a cliff, because they have started to, unfortunately, pull my hair out. You see, what had been happening is, I had been coming home after the break-ins, and because of the street theatre that I've been having, it made me worried that they'd do something like that to my hair because of the level of malice. And anyway, they didn't do anything to my hair at the time, but they have done something to my hair now because they realised that I'd be worried about it. So that's obviously a lesson for people to learn as well. But basically, it also means that they are trying to get me to move, you know, and for example, stitch myself up. You know, they're trying to leave me with no options, and it just happens to coincide with the time where I've been sunk into my overdraft again. So, you know, I've really got very little options available. You see, what I've been worried about is coming forward and being disbelieved by so many people, being written off by everybody, you know, effectively sinking my ship. But what I've since realised after thinking about it is that rather than coming out as a victim and hoping that people believe me, I'm actually going to come out in power, sort of thing. Rather than saying I'm being persecuted, I'm going to say that I'm seeking justice. I'm the one pursuing justice, which is a very different approach. And I'm not saying that other people haven't been following that approach as well. But I've started to realise that I think that approach is going to work for us a lot better. So I've been thinking about my approach for a while, and I've come up with the name Worldwide Racist Criminal Elite Organised Covert Harassment. So I'm just going to mention as well that last night I actually had a different idea. A phrase had come up for me, the Fourth Reich. And I'm wondering how useful that phrase, in fact, would be in the name instead. So I'm now going to be thinking about that for a bit. Now, I was speaking to somebody about it, and they were saying, look, well, why are you adding in the racist part? Because, you know, it's so much bigger than racism. And this is why I have chosen to include racism, being aware that it's not just racism. Firstly, a lot of people have already come out just trying to get justice from criminals in the past. Many people have written books, started campaigns about criminals, and they haven't really worked. The reason why I'm adding racist into it is because racism has been used to distract the people from the real social problems. And by explaining to people that the level of racism we're seeing today is not your fault, it's actually their fault for manipulating the media, for putting out these messages through Hollywood, for doing all this social manipulation, instead of it being different sections of society trying to vie with each other, for once we can actually all come together against a common enemy. They are the ones rolling out the racism. Rather than seeing the problem as this particular racial group or that particular racial group, finally we can overcome that huge deception that they have been playing on the public on purpose to keep us divided and to keep us focusing on these petty squabbles. And I think that's actually going to be quite liberating for a lot of people. I think it puts the blame for that disgusting, vile racism where it should have been placed all along, on these sick criminals, not on the public as a whole. I've also included the word crime because I think a lot of people have an interest in crime and crime stories and things like that. So I thought that would attract a certain market as well. And I've put the word elite because a lot of people find that slightly appealing as well. Because people think, it's a little bit classy, even though it's anything but, as we know. But as I say, I've just started thinking of a potential other name as well now. So you might have some feedback from me about that, about your opinions as well. And if so, please contact me. So I'm preparing what I'm going to say in my video, but I'm also getting a website together, a Twitter account, an Instagram account, a Facebook page. And when I set out my material, I hope you'll see how I'm bringing everything together. So no, I'm not going to focus just on the racist aspect, but what I think it does is it puts a new slant on this global criminal problem, which many people have tried to tackle in the past without success. I don't currently have any material up yet, but I have made, the basic accounts and stuff, and that will be coming out in due course. I'll also be selecting the best material for that channel as well. For example, videos or the playlists and things and web links, and that's also part of the reason why I kind of want to get information together. It could be information about the wider problem or a particular case, because I also have a playlist for personal evidence that individuals have collected as well, because that's important. Again, strength in numbers. Yes, somebody can say, what are you talking about? That's, it's a set song. I can't see anything wrong with that. That just looks normal. But not when you put hundreds of people with that at the same time, you see. So this evidence is really part of a process that I see in terms of the stages that we must go through in order to achieve liberation. We've got to get the public aware, we've got to get the public on board and not denying it. And then that will provide us with the ability to influence the organisations in a realistic way. Because they won't act unless they are being watched by the public. They won't act unless they are being called to account and everybody's going to say, that person didn't do his job. Then they're going to act. Because they are ignoring it as individuals at the moment because we don't have enough weight, we don't have enough clout. We don't have enough leverage. So coming together is our best bet. And in terms of getting people together, when I'm talking about the racism element, one of the major strands that I'm going to be including in this new approach is the technology. Because the technology now is affecting everybody directly. Everybody is at risk. Physically at risk, an immediate risk of serious physical harm. And we need protection from this technology. We need to know about shielding, you see. And this is all information that we have not been given. To be honest, it seems as though once they are able to hack into our cell phones, hack into our, refrigerators and make our refrigerators talk to our stereos, we are going to be in a different world in terms of their surveillance abilities. I was listening to a video by Seven, I'll discuss her a bit later, but she was saying, look, they are setting up cameras in people's houses, watching their lives, and then using that as storylines for their media. And I do believe that's happened to me as well. Certain things have been going on, using me for, some of their media productions, which I'll never get to see, but, because I just don't watch all that kind of fiction stuff. But obviously it's not fiction, is it? But what I mean is, this is now not just us being victims and we're asking for your time to help when they've got, their children to look after or their jobs to worry about. Now it is actually all of our problems, and we need to be the ones who are saying to people, look, we are going to now seek justice for us. We are together. Man, we are all in the same boat, and we are the ones as TIs who are going to lead that fight for justice. Are you behind us? Yes, we are, hopefully. And this is why it's going to be really important for me as well to set out the vision of the legal steps that I'm intending, or we are intending to take as well, because that makes it easier for other people. Basically, we have to do all the work for other people and make it easy for them and at every stage. Because when people have a vision of our final destination, that helps it turn into reality. So, another topic that I wanted to discuss today was some of my mind control experiences, I think these are so serious, so worrying, that I'm sure these experiences will help you and other people in some way. So, during the time of Phil Leake's funeral, I was kicked out of my house and I had no idea it was going to happen. I had to find a new place on the very day, and I called somebody that I knew to come and help me. And I will mention at this point that throughout my targeting for many, many years, there have been certain concepts and ideas that they have emphasised, to ram these ideas into my brain through sheer repetition. And one of the really significant ones was this particular name. I won't say it in public, but say, for example, the name was Alex. Well, in fact, it is an offshoot of the name Alex. So I'm calling the name Alex, but actually it's a little bit more of an unusual name than Alex. So say, for example, the name was Peterson. A common enough name, but, not everybody's called Peterson. So anyway, this person, my friend, not called Alex, he brought his car over, and I said, well, let's go to this location that I know around the corner, because I remember that there were some houses for temporary renting there. So I was saying to him, take this left, take this right, because we're going to enter into an area where I know that there are some flats for rent. To me, it was completely random. And anyway, we took this turning, and as we were driving through, we happened to see some people outside their house talking. This was about 8 o'clock at night, so there weren't very many people on the street. It seemed as though they had been living there for many years, and I now believe, I'm quite sure, that they probably were genuine residents and not perps, because they know my new landlady, and my new landlady is not a perp. So he put his head out of the window and said, oh, do you know anybody who has a flat to rent around here? And they said, oh yeah, we know somebody. She lives just round the corner from here. And they got this number, they called their friend, and then maybe, about 5 minutes later, somebody came out of their house and walked over to see us. And these were all genuine residents. These weren't perps, these were genuine people. They'd been living there for years. I mean, it was all so random that I thought, right, I've now moved to a new flat. It's all by chance. Of course, they're not going to be there anymore. I've escaped from that horrible hell house that I was living in. So I was thinking, at least I'm far away from them. It's completely random. There is no way that I'm going to have any problems in this new house. I got into this new house, and I only find out that my neighbour, who is also renting a flat here, has the surname with the trigger name. So, for example, it's not his name, but his name would be Peterson. It was just too coincidental. It later transpired as well that this neighbour I have, Peterson, which is not the name, is a perp. So what that means is they had mind controlled me to take those turnings. Left and right down different streets, they had mind controlled those residents to be standing outside their house. At the time, talking, having a chat, there was about 2 or 3 of them outside, and they had also set up this perp to be living in this flat for 1.5 years, which is how long he's been living here. That was not the only time that I have seen them use mind control in a highly, militarily precise way. So, for example, there was another name that they had been ramming into my brain, years and years and years, over and over again. Let's say this person's name is Tina. Now, I made friends with a group of people not connected to this Tina, but one of the people within the group had the same name, so she was also called Tina. Now, I don't think that they were perps, I think that they were just normal locals. I mean, the second Tina from the group of friends that I made, she was a bit of an alcoholic, so I don't think that she was really a perp. She might have been. So, one day, I'm coming out of the supermarket, quite a big supermarket, after having done my shopping, spent as much time as I liked going around the aisles and choosing things, waiting in the queue behind, however many people there were, just doing everything in my own time. I get a taxi, and I get in the taxi, and, we're talking, oh, how are you, I mentioned that I didn't have to wait for the taxi or anything. As soon as I came out, I got a taxi, and then we drove off. And as we drive out of the car park, we are driving onto a busy high street, really chock-a-block with traffic. It might have even been rush hour. I mean, that's how many cars were on the road. It was, traffic was stopping at the traffic lights and there were loads of people, all walking around. So anyway, I'm sitting in the car, coming out of the car park in this taxi, and I look up and I see this woman called Tina. Not the original one, the one with the similar name, the second Tina. Tina is sitting on the bus, which was going past just at the time that my taxi was coming out of the supermarket. The bus was basically crossing from my left to right, and there was a set of traffic lights just outside the car park, which would have also affected the time the bus had gone past. The bus basically just went one space in front of me in the taxi. I mean, the bus had been coming down a high road, and this woman is there on a bus in this street full to the brim with traffic, just at the moment that I'm coming out. So the bus goes ahead of me, just ahead of me and my car, and as we go past, there's a fire blazing because somehow a car to what is now the right of me had been set alight, obviously after I'd entered into the supermarket, because I hadn't seen it on my way in. And the next day, there was one of their false flag events. I think it was even a fire the next day they had. I can't remember which one it was now. I have to look it up. I've got it all written down in my diary. So they had mind controlled me, possibly my taxi driver as well, or he could have been a perp. As I say, it's possible this woman was a perp, but they must have mind controlled the bus driver and the surrounding traffic that had been going around. It was basically perfectly timed. I mean, maybe they had just mind controlled me. I mean, even if they hadn't been mind controlling all the surrounding cars as well, and even if my taxi driver was a perp, because I don't know who the taxi driver was, how did they get me out of the supermarket in time with the bus? They had done all of that just so I could have that experience to be reminded of the name Tina and the concept of a fire, obviously. So that is some serious precision mind control. And I thought I'd explain that to you, because I have had quite a few experiences like that, but that is one of the more weird ones. You see, what I've noticed is that I think these people are all on some kind of weird power trip. They're not interested in the truth. They're interested in being adored by millions of people. I'm mentioning now there was a video by the International Tribunal of Natural Justice where a committee has supposedly discussed the drinking of adrenalized blood of children by satanic elites. Someone was questioning, is that a real committee? Were they actors? But they have a YouTube channel and it looks as though it's the real body, and you can check it out yourself. It's on my playlists. I've actually put it on my YouTube homepage as well. If you scroll right down to the bottom, you'll see that I've got a list now of official channels as well that are relevant. And I will also put a link in the video description below. I think that's a really important video for everybody to see. I mean, the highest level of satanic abuse now is being discussed openly as part of the official narrative. One of the dynamics that I've picked up on is that when they beat down on us TIs, I don't think that we are all aware of what they are doing at the same time. And I have become aware that when they beat down on me, certain politicians are having their inauguration day, or starting a new period of their term, in political office. They are in fact harvesting our energy for these false flag events, for these satanic events that they have. And so what I mean about these power trips is, I've mentioned this before, I always mention this person, but, for example, Ted Bundy, who got off on things that normal people would find absolutely disgusting and revolting. We are dealing with people who are very, very different. And I think this is part of the reason why they are beating us up. I think perhaps it's possible that each TI has a few powerful people that are parasiting off them, and they hurt us to literally suck up our energy. I'm not sure if anybody has noticed anything recently, but for example, last night I was attacked
and I've just seen that there has been a General Assembly meeting within the United Nations. Now, I'm not saying everybody there is to blame, but this is not the first time that I have become aware of something like this, in terms of being attacked and then seeing some kind of event for the rich and powerful.
You know, so I'm just saying that basically so you can bear that in mind, basically, that when they beat up on you, don't commit suicide. You know, if anything, you know, you've got to find a way to turn it back round on them. You know, I'm not saying that you can be really strong and just brush it off and say it doesn't matter, because I know that they deliberately try to get to us where it hurts. But give them as little energy as you possibly can. So one of the last things I wanted to discuss today also was the tragedy that Charles Seven, the artist Seven, has gone through. She's been on a couple of interviews now talking about her idea for Dancing with the Stars, all these different TV shows that she was in fact the creator of. She had gone to this open day where she was asked to showcase her ideas. She also went to a solicitor, and every single party ended up running off with her idea, making millions and millions and millions, even billions of pounds out of her ideas, and of course not paying her a penny. And what they tried to do is assassinate all her family. So she's revealed that her mother and father have been killed in mysterious circumstances. She lost several family members in the Grenfell Tower fire, and her cousin Ronnie, who had helicopters flying outside his house 2 days before the Grenfell Tower, he has now been assassinated through poisoning. So I have come across that tragic story recently, and I can't imagine a very much worse situation for anybody to go through. I haven't actually made contact with Seven myself. I'm hoping to do that at some point. I'm trying to get in touch with her. I left a message on her most recent interview saying, does anybody have her contact details? I then looked at the video with a different YouTube account and saw that the message asking for her contact details wasn't appearing. It had been coincidentally sorted, so it wasn't appearing. So I've been asking for her contact details, but I didn't know Ronnie myself, but I watched one of his videos where he was just being a real rock for Seven and really supporting her, and I just thought, goodness, he just seemed like a really lovely, genuine, sweet person, and I always remembered him because I thought he was such a nice person. He really stood out to me, and I have been devastated to hear that he, this lovely, gorgeous, sweet, courageous Ronnie, has now been assassinated. I mean, there couldn't be much worse to lose so many family members, even in the horrific Grenfell Tower fire. So, you know, it might be nice if genuine TIs do maybe reach out a bit to Seven. They are beating her up hard, man. And she's a good, talented person. Okay, and yes, and finally, I will mention that in terms of the BBC, as I mentioned, I haven't heard anything from them as yet, but I'm planning to get this worldwide racist criminal elite initiative out, and then I'm going to be following them up. So I will leave it there for now. Thank you everyone for getting through this long video. I wish you all well, and speak next time. Sending blessings, everyone.